Freren saw her sister Ramira lounging with her friend Tintel, the two Yorpal passing away their idle time in the cantina. Much like her, Ramira was yellow in fur color, though hers was brighter and more sunshine in tone. Her snout and paws were a little more dainty as well. Though her ears were larger, Ramira had always been the beauty of the family, while Freren had been the bruiser. Tintel was one of the black furs and looked as if she had been dipped in pen ink. She had been hoping to surprise them with her arrival on the station, and it appeared she had been right to spread the white lie of having to go back down to Earth for a little while. Freren smiled to herself as she ducked her head and made her way through the crowd. It felt alien to her, only wearing civilian clothing, and she felt naked without her XC-1 Lancer rifle. She was allowed, as were all human military troopers, to wear a pistol still, and she had hers in a chest holster. Much to her amusement, hers was made by Alien Gear and even featured both a cartoonish alien head and the United American States' First Amendment on the crossbrace. By the time she looped her way around the cantina, she was directly behind her sister and dug her fingers into the Yorpal's sides. Ramira screeched as Freren's fingers plunged into her ribs and her fur instantly floofed in pained, ticklish panic. "Hello, sister!" Freren cried out, then began lacing kisses all over Ramira's face, cheeks, and snout as she continued tickling. Everyone around them in the cantina turned to look, some shaking their heads while others giggled behind their hands. Ramira tried to pry away her sister's hands, but Freren had been trained and fortified by the humans, and her grip was as sure as stone. "Freren! Freren, get off me!" Tintel exhaled out her nose, leaning to the side to avoid the two tussling yellow Yorpal and making sure they didn't knock her cantinister out of her hand. "I've missed you so much!" Freren cried out in genuine affection, lifting the sunshine yellow Yorpal with ease and spinning her around. "Look how small and dainty you still are!" Tintel had to duck a few times, avoiding Ramira's kicking feet. "You're fucking huge!" Ramira cried out in giggling alarm. Her eyes still squinted against her sister's fusillade of kisses. "What have the humans been feeding you?" Tintel took a moment to observe the two sisters, Ramira still trying to get free of her sister, while Freren continued to pour on the love, along with the muscle. Freren was nearly 3 inches taller than her sister when Tintel had seen pictures of them before. They had been nearly the same height before Freren had left for training, and Tintel found that curious. Even odder was the difference in muscle mass. Ramira was still the lithe, athletic beauty she had always been. But that did not mean she was strong in any regard. Her muscles did not deform her fur, and she still had trouble opening lids or jars due to her more metropolitan lifestyle. Freren, on the other hand, looked like an absolute monster. Her muscles were thick, rugged, and even her thigh muscles were showing through her tight-fitting tactical lounge pants. Her arm fur showed off the contours of her arm muscles like fluffy mountains, and Tintel quietly wondered, too, what the humans had been feeding her. It didn't end there, though. Freren looked different. Tintel didn't want to think she was scary or anything, but she did look, well, scarier. Her eyes held a kind of hard edge, even as she looked lovingly at her sister, and her body was held together, rigid, poised. If anything, it looked as if Freren could kill right then and there, then go and buy a corn dog without little trouble. Freren finally set her sister down, then stood back, setting her hands on her hips. "Geez, I bet you're giving all the men on this station trouble, aren't you?" No? Ramira stammered, even though Tintel was idly nodding her head behind her back. "And what about you? You said you had to go down to Earth for more training." Freren nodded. "I do, but I had to come up here and give some kind of report. Figured I'd surprise my little darling sister." Freren pinched her sister's cheeks with both her hands, making Ramira yowl and bat her hands away. "Stop it! You're as bad as Mama." Tintel chuckled behind Ramira, drinking from her cantinister. "Your mom is a howl, by the way. calls over the station link every morning to make sure Ramira is brushing her fur correctly. Probably hoping to marry her away during the Shahamet. Freren said, then crossed her arms as she remembered her mother trying to do the same to her, making her flee and join the whole human military initiative in the first place. Holy cow, Freren, Ramira said in a hushed tone, tilting her head at Freren as she observed how her arm muscles bulged as she crossed her arms. Look how big you are! As Ramira ran her paws along Freren's arms, she looked at Tintel. Holy cow? She's been digging deep into human slang, Tintel said offhandedly, waving her pawed hand. You should have heard her practicing how to say radical in the right pretense. But her muscles are radical, Ramira said, squeezing Freren's bicep. Look how big her shoyar is! It's like she stuffed apples into her skin. Tintel snorted. Looks like she stuffed a lot of things a lot of places. I'm pretty sure if she squats down too low, those pants are gonna explode. They're not gonna explode, Freren said in confusion while unfolding her arms, pulling at the fabric with her fingers. They have spandex woven into the cotton, see? Whoa, Ramira said with a gasp, now noticing just how much larger her sister's chest was. Did the humans give you those, too? Freren, for the first time in a while, felt embarrassed. Huh? What? No, you do a lot of chest exercises during training and PT, so the muscles get bigger. The humans give us a lot of fatty foods for chow, like cheese and stuff. Yorples shouldn't have cheese and stuff, you know. Tintel mused, knowing what happened to the male and female Yorples. They make us store fat really easy. You should have seen some of our fellow male students after they discovered poutine. 10 of those bastards had to get put on calorie restrictions. Don't get me started on the things the more human-inclined females have been doing. Freren narrowed her eyes at that, then swatted away her sister's hands as they felt at her abdominal muscles. What do you mean? They're trying to be more appealing, Tintel mused, shaking her cantinister, trying to get rounder figures. Yorples are not meant to be round, Freren said, wondering if she had to use up some of her free time here to slap some sense into the female Yorple on station. Tintel shrugged. Side effect of living around humans so much. You should see our teacher. That Samra is even wearing jeans. Freren raised her eyebrow at that, then slung her arm around Ramira's shoulders. By the way, where are those little metal things? The cantinisters? Ramira asked, pointing to her sticker-covered one, and Tintel's, which was also covered in stickers. Canister, Freren said. Ramira shook her head. No, cantinister. What the hell is a cantinister? Freren asked, now doubly confused. Ramira pointed over to a large shop that sat within the cantina. They're little canisters that keep hot drinks hot and cold drinks cold. So it's a canister, Freren growled in frustration, in which Ramira and Tintel both laughed. No, it's a cantinister. Ramira giggled out, then took her sister by the hand, leading her towards the shop as Tintel followed behind them. When the Optican... Freren rolled her eyes. Of course it involves those stupid bird people. I don't like them either, Tintel murmured behind the pair, then went back to slurping on her straw. They say words wrong all the time, with their stupid beaks and their damn feathers. When the Optican got on station, they liked ice water, since they overheated a lot in the beginning with their training. Ramira began again, but was interrupted once more by the two other Yorple. Imagine being too weak for Earth's gravity. Freren snorted. Tintel chuffed a breath of air out her nose in response, muttering around her straw. Or needing to eat a bunch of calcium tabs and medical nanotech to reweave their bone structure. To keep their water cool, Ramira interjected, her ears pinning back in aggravation. And to keep themselves cool, When they found the canisters, or thermoses, if I remember what the humans call them correctly, they thought only the cantina had them, so they combined the word cantina and canister. They thought they were quite clever calling them cantinisters, and the humans, for whatever reason, are highly fond of optic and speaking patterns. So they were dubbed cantinisters, and even have the name stamped on the bottom of them. Frerin, all while her sister was yapping into her ear about the other news around the station, picked up one of these cantinisters, though she picked one that was olive drab green. That way it matched the rest of her on-duty wardrobe. After she had gotten her cantinister, Frerin went straight to the long line of coffee carafes and began pouring in a steady stream of dark roast. "Wow, are you sure?" Tintel asked Frerin. "That stuff tastes really strong. None of us can even handle a mouthful of it." Frerin shrugged a shoulder. "It's all we get to drink in the garrison or in the fleet. If you want coffee, you get Soul Black, as the humans call it, or you get nothing at all. You learn to appreciate it. Plus, I get to drink more of it." "Ramira and I have to drink the golden roast. It's all our tongues can handle," Tintel murmured, watching with open jealousy as Frerin turned up the pour valve, then screwed on the cantinister cap. "Straight up? No milk or anything?" Frerin turned to look at the Blackford Yorple, her cap groaning quietly as she took it just past hand tight. "Yeah, why? Do you two put milk in it?" "Nearly half milk," Ramira said in awe. "You're able to just drink it like it is?" Frerin nodded. "Yeah, I guess." "Your sister is hardcore, Ramira," Tintel said breathlessly, not even able to imagine drinking an entire container of black coffee with nothing in it to dull the taste. "Is that part of some human warrior cult thing?" Ramira asked, refilling her own cantinister with Yorple-level roast and then pouring milk into it. "Miss Rimiki was telling us about the little cults that make up the human military." "No, it's 1600 and I'm flagging and need caffeine kind of thing." Frerin chuckled, taking a sip of her coffee and tapping her card to a small screen nearby, paying for it. Tintel saw her balance and whistled through her teeth. "Human military pays well." "More like I have nothing to spend my money on," Frerin replied, in which Ramira slowly turned around, looking over her shoulder. "I have an idea on where you can spend that money," Ramira said, then fluttered her eyelashes. "After all, you did miss my Yarunlo while you were gone, and all our parents sent me was a card." Frerin shook her head from side to side, then let out a small laugh before turning to her sister. "All right, let's go shopping then. I'm sure there are some things I need aboard the station as well anyway. From what the layout infers, this place is just a giant shopping mall." What Frerin was not prepared for was Ramira's voracious appetite for shopping, and after the drought brought upon by their parents, Frerin found herself performing as the deluge her sister required. Ramira was, however, not prepared for her sister's newfound grit, as the pushover Yorple she once knew was now a hardened combat veteran. There were multiple times when Frerin grabbed her sister by both her ears and gave her a shake, especially when she got too whiny. Frerin found Tintel far more polite, something the Blackford Yorple were not known for, and got her a gift when she showed a lot of attention to a graphic t-shirt in an oddly grim themed store. Ramira still got her pound of flesh off of Frerin and was happily walking along the promenade with 2 armfuls of bags. Frerin herself found a few things she liked, mostly lounge pants and a few sweaters that were all the rave on the station due to how chilly it was. They had all settled down to an early lunch some hours later when Frerin's service slate gave a light chirp and she pulled it out from her sling pack, tapping it awake with the pad of her pawed hand. As she narrowed her eyes at the slate, Ramira looked up from her large plate of mall Chinese, a notorious selection of food humans were renowned for in terms of saucy junk chow. Tintel, still trying to get a hang of chopsticks, looked over as well. "Something wrong, sis?" Ramira asked, slurping a noodle up too quickly and causing it to whack her across the nose. Tyndall tilted her own head at Freren as the mustard-yellow Yorple read her slate, then wiggled her haphazard chopsticks at Ramira. I think your visit is getting cut short. Those brows and narrowed eyes say official fuckery. Quite. Freren sighed out, then stood up, grabbing her already empty tray of food. She ate faster than these two, simply out of military habit. I have to go in early for my meeting. Appears a few Yorple elders are on station. Tyndall blinked up at Freren. Elders? Here? Why would they come all the way to this station? I don't know, but I guess I'm going to find out. Freren muttered, then turned, dumping her cardboard tray into a nearby recycling slot. When I'm done, I'll send you a PVWEP so we can link back up. Hopefully, this won't take too long. Tyndall held her hand to her eyebrow, grinning cheekily. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Ramira inhaled with a snort of laughter, then started coughing on a stray noodle that found its way into her lungs. Freren did not like being in meetings, and this one felt worse than being in a room with her NCOs and COs. They had her at a little table wide enough for one, and a roller chair that kept trying to make her wiggle back and forth to get comfortable. Ahead of her was a far longer table on the same level and only 5 feet away. At the head of the table were 4 Yorple elders, and most of them were looking at Freren as if they had smelled shit at the bottom of their shoes. On the far end was a female Zumra wearing a smart business suit, and on the other far end was a male Point, though he looked as grizzled as Freren did. When their gaze met, he winked at her, and she felt a small pause come over her. One of me, Freren thought to herself, and she found her nerves settling. Kahwai Freren Yoilut, stand before your elders in the correct posture, one of the male elders roared, his white fur flecked at the ends with black. Or have you become so infected by human culture that you have forgotten our ways? Freren barely held back the growl in her throat. It had been a very long time since she had to perform the Corfle to someone, and for some reason it made her extremely angry to do it now. Her eyes cut to the Point as she moved to stand, and he gave her a very short inch of a nod, as if saying, just do it and get it over with. Freren exhaled slowly out of her nose, got onto her knees, held her balled fist to her chest, then leaned forward until the nose of her snout was touching the ground. It felt humiliating to do this now. She was a killer, a soldier forged by human warriors, and they had never asked her to bow or touch her damned nose to the ground. Her heart burned in rage, something she had never felt before in such a way until now. The white-furred elder continued speaking. Kahwai Freren Yoilut, you have been called before this council to administer a full report on humans and their tendencies in war. We believe this pertinent now that the war wave is only a few days away from beginning their mass offensive. We saw it prudent that we be here personally. That and you're as far away from the war wave as possible, you fucking cowards. Freren thought to herself, and the feeling that washed over her was alien. It was pure, unfiltered hatred, and it made her eyes water with shame as she prostrated herself like this before these people. Humans didn't make her do this. Humans didn't make her feel shame. Rise and take your seat, Kahwai, the elder said, and he never masked the disgust on his tongue when he said that one word. Freren mastered herself, blinked the shamed sting from her eyes, and rose from the ground, taking the seat. The Point and Zumra seemed to know exactly how she felt, and their faces were hardened compared to the pomp smugness of the Yorple elders. Miss Rimmicky, one of the female elders said, her fur light purple and going white at the tips. Miss Rimmicky cleared her throat, tapping her data slate to life, and she smiled kindly at Freren. May I call you Freren? Yes, that is fine, Miss Rimmicky. Freren responded, her voice tight. Miss Rimmicky smiled brightly again, her draconic head fronds wiggling at her. Very good. Freren, the elders here have a belief that they wish to discuss with you. And since you are the highest-ranking Yorpal in the human military, being a corporal, they believe you will have the best thoughts on the subject. As good of thoughts as a Kawaii may have, another male Yorpal elder murmured, his own fur completely dark gray. This is a human station. Miss Rimiki snapped suddenly, and she turned her gaze to the elders, violence hot on her eyes. And on this human station you will not disparage this Yorpal, doubly so for her being a uniformed NCO of the human military. The tension in the room skyrocketed, and Freren could smell the musk of anger and fear from the elder Yorpals. The point cleared his throat, speaking out with a calm, smooth voice. This is the way of the humans, and we must adhere to their rules while on their station. Corporal Freren has every right to lodge complaints against you as it is, making her bow like that. That is what Kawaii do! That is how they respect their betters! The white-furred Yorpal elder shouted. I will not have a Kawaii stand before me and not show their obedience! The point and Miss Rimiki grew cold around the eyes, and Miss Rimiki looked to the point. Mr. Radisson is correct. You cannot treat her this way on this station, nor will I allow it. Or do I have to remind you who I am? Miss Rimiki said, and her fronds gave a threatening twitter from her head. Freren was now deeply curious who this Zamra was, and why all the elders, as well as the point, looked rather afraid of her. Miss Rimiki tapped her data slate, then turned to Freren. The Council of Yorpal Elders believes that the humans may be compensating in their bloodshed out of fear. Do you agree? What? Freren sputtered, the question taking her so off guard it caused a comical mental double take. Compensating because they're afraid? What horseshit is this? The white-haired elder went to leap to his feet in outrage, but a single glance from Miss Rimiki, as well as a cocking of the shoulders from Mr. Radisson, kept him in check. The more polite male Yorpal elder spoke up, his fur a tawny brown. There are many within the councils that believe the humans may be, shall we say, over-exaggerating their fierceness in combat, as if trying to mask a hidden fear or hiding the fact they fear war in general. They have gone into combat with such overwhelming power that some believe they may be trying to keep something under wraps from the rest of us, or trying to keep their power in line with their reputation, or trying to make themselves look better to the other races. You, being on loan to the humans under military service in order to gain information on their warrior culture, would know better than any of us. We hope that you can put these rather odd rumors and ideas to rest. The purple-furred female elder said, looking pointedly to a few of her fellow elders, the white-furred Yorpal in particular. Not to mention you were there during an exposition of human war magic and saw it firsthand. Do you, Kawaii Freren, believe that the humans are hiding a deep fear of war? Hell no! Freren laughed out, the absurdity of it all hitting her right in the funny bone. They love war. The white-furred elder slammed his palm to the table. It's a lie, a bold-faced lie from a Kawaii nonetheless. Humans are over-aggressive, over-fierce, and over-exaggerated. No one goes out of their way like that to do combat. Who diverts an entire battleship to a simple distress call? Who sends so many troops to the front line in such numbers? They are hiding something. There is no reason for it. There is a weakness they are trying to keep away from all of us, or some underhanded plan for power because they fear not being on top or being needed. You will tell us now, Kawaii. I'm not going to tell you a goddamn thing! Freren roared, standing up so suddenly her little table toppled over away from her, thudding against the carpet. Who are you to demand such a thing of me? Who am I? The white-furred elder roared back. I am your Frerin, her blood bubbling in her veins, jabbed a finger at the white-furred elder, her limbs shaking. You are nothing to me. You come here calling me Kuhwai and made me perform the Corful. You made me press my nose to the ground as if I have done something wrong when you sent me here. The humans have been nothing but good to me and treat me like I am one of their own, while you treat me like trash. I have earned my stripes, earned my veterancy. I bled with the humans and my fellow Yorpal on the battlefield, while you run and hide next to Earth as the war wave approaches. There was disquiet in the room as the silent part was said aloud, and all the Yorpal elders' ears came back in an awkward pin. Frerin, seeing their faces, their ears, and smelling their musk of anxiety and fear, let out an angry scream and kicked her chair across the room with her shoed paw. The chair shattered into a dozen pieces, though Miss Rimmicky did not react as some of the plastic tinkled onto the table in front of her. Being reduced in status like this by the elder Yorpals was agonizing to Frerin, and she had to do something, to break something before she broke them instead. All but Elder Trek and Elder Cordal will now leave, Miss Rimmicky said politely, even as Frerin openly rumbled a growl in her throat, her hackles raising from under her shirt to plume around her neck. You will leave now, for your own safety. Mr. Radisson stood up and placed a hand on Frerin's shoulder as the ejected elders began to make their way towards the door, their wary eyes on Miss Rimmicky. Easy, Corporal. If you touch them, not even we can help you. The warning in his words made Frerin calm down an inch or two, then blinked in confusion when Elder Trek, the purple-furred female elder, came around and set a different chair down in front of Frerin. So odd seeing a female Yorpal like you. I can see why Elder Vorband was so afraid and wanted you to do the Corful, she said, smoothing down her immaculate robes and sitting back down. It seems you are right, Miss Rimmicky. The humans are afflicting the other races. Miss Rimmicky nodded. I was not wrong, was I? Appears that even Corporal Frerin here has a little dusting of the human magic as well. You say this part of their pathokinetic tendencies? Elder Cordal asked. Their brains and skin are affecting others. Miss Rimmicky nodded. I believe that is where most of it stems from, for now anyway. It is currently all I have to go on. Frerin turned to look at the point, Mr. Radisson, but he just gestured to the seat and walked back to his own. Frerin, tell us about humans in combat, Elder Cordal said cordially, his tawny fur looking more at ease. Are you hiding near Earth to avoid the war? Frerin asked brazenly, locking her eyes onto the tawny-furred Yorpal. Elder Cordal nodded. Yes, we are. However, that is not why we are here. We are here because you are here, and we have been receiving quite interesting reports on you. You have been leading Yorpal into battle alongside humans, and their own reports on you have been glowing, so much so that we have waves of renegade Yorpal taking the Kauai title and fleeing to Earth for training, Elder Trek said, giving a small laugh. So, tell us about them in combat. Frerin looked to Miss Rimmicky and Mr. Radisson, both of them nodding back to her, and she now felt a little awkward in the aftershock of her outburst. Well, I think it is when humans truly come alive. I think it's where their true colors come out. They are not all brave, but I don't think the military is made up of the more flighty humans. The ones on the front lines, the warriors, they wade into combat and war without fear. How do they make you feel? Miss Rimmicky asked, tapping lightly on her data slate as Frerin spoke. Or should I say, how do you feel around them? Frerin shrugged. Like I am one of them. In the beginning, they treated me like a joke, like an alien, I suppose. But when I earned my way and shed blood with them, I don't know, I felt like I belonged. They made me feel like I belonged anyway. They don't treat me like a Yorple, and they don't treat others like Poit or Carligans. To the humans, you're just a weird-looking human with a lot of fur, I guess. How do you mean? Elder Trek asked, leaning forward and resting her head on the back of her pawed hands. When I was a soldier with our own people, on Dagmar Prime, and when we would fight with the other star citizens, there was never this feeling. We fought, we separated, and that was that. With the humans, after the bloodshed, you feel like you are safe, with family. The humans fight with a fury I have never seen before, never bore witness to before. And they fight not only for themselves, but for you as well. A burned male human officer bore me aloft into battle. A severely wounded female trooper defended me from a mandarin. And it was innate. They just do it. You don't have to ask. You don't have to beg. You just have to earn your place. Freren said, the faces of all the humans flashing through her mind one by one, smiling at her or giving her this look she could not explain. When you wear their warrior green, go through the training and fight beside them, you stop being Yorple or Poit or whatever you may be. You are one of them. You are more. Miss Rimmicky rapidly tapped on her data slate, then looked up at Freren. How do they look at you? Their eyes, what do they say? Freren, despite herself, found her throat suddenly hard to speak with, as her mind filled with more human faces. She focused in on the looks the male and female humans had given her after battle, after their drops together into the roar of war. I don't know why, but when they look at me, I feel like I'm human, one of them. My mind says friend, but it's more. It goes beyond friendship. It's brotherhood. Mr. Radisson said, the single word filling the room. Freren slowly nodded her head. Yes, I believe that is the correct word. Brotherhood. As if fighting with them proves you are worthy of their shared soul. That is rather deep of you, Kawhi Freren, Elder Cordell murmured. Do you believe this is why they love war like they do, as a time of proving oneself worthy of brotherhood? Freren took a quick gulp of coffee from her cantinister, popping the drinking gap closed with a crisp click of plasti-steel. I think there's more to it. I'm sure that is part of it, don't get me wrong, but I also believe that humans simply love to fight. The humans in my unit are always fighting each other in mock battle, but they never tire of it, never become bored of it. It makes them stronger and tighter as a unit in a lot of ways. I have never felt more alive than I have on the battlefield. I have learned to enjoy the seconds and savor them as if they are days. I have learned to savor the taste of coffee as if I'm drinking ambrosia because I have come face to face with death so many times. Each time, the humans have pulled me through. I think humans love war and to some degree death because it makes them appreciate life more than anything else ever could. I also think they're more willing, if not more happy, to give their life in the betterment of those around them. Miss Rimmicky looked to Mr. Radisson, while Elder Cordell and Elder Trek shared a look as well. Elder Trek tilted her head at Freren as she spoke. I did find it curious that humans would so willingly go into battle for such minuscule reasons, such as when you drop down to help the remnants of the Nimiki refugees or a struggling unit of mixed-race soldiers. Your entire battleship went off course. Do you believe that the humans would do this for anyone? Do you believe they are selective? Many believe they do this to butter up the other councils for power. I believe they would happily fight and die for those they consider friends or allies worth having. Freren said without pause, surprising even herself at how easy the words flowed out of her. What about you? Elder Trek asked, her ears perked. Would you die just as the humans would? Would you die like a human? Freren felt the statement leave her mouth before she even had time to think it over. her voice stalwart and firm. Yes. Why? Frerin took a short breath, blinked, then looked at both of the remaining Yorpal elders. Because this is the human path. It is the path I walk now as well. When the call goes out, I arrive with thunder. Miss Rimmicky stopped tapping on her data slate, then smiled warmly to Frerin. Thank you, Frerin. That will be all. Elders, please, head up to the secondary room like we discussed. Mr. Radisson and I will meet you shortly. Frerin nodded to Miss Rimmicky, then to Mr. Radisson, and quickly left the room, her head and heart filled with a mixture of emotions that she would have to find time to wrangle later. Oddest of all is that she did not long for her sister, or even for other Yorpals. Her heart missed where she belonged, amongst the humans in Warrior's Green. It has hurt deep, Mr. Radisson said, lighting up a human cigarette and taking a long pull from it before blowing the smoke past his lips. Her elders didn't even have an effect on her. Miss Rimmicky nodded, pulling up her latte that she had hidden from view during the entire meeting. I thought the pathokinesis was bad when humans touched us, but I think it becomes far more effective during combat. The human love for bloodshed may accelerate their mental and physical effects. They're not going to take her back. They're going to leave her to the humans because they can't control her anymore. Mr. Radisson said, looking at the ember of his cigarette, as his pointed ears twitched. There are over 3,000 Yorpal heading this direction for training. Their councils will not be pleased. It was a foregone conclusion that Corporal Frerin was never going to go back to Dagmar Prime. Miss Rimmicky replied, finishing the notes she had tapped on her data slate with one hand, while the other brought her cup to her lips. She took a long drink, then set the latte down. As soon as the Yorpal recruits hit Earth, the humans are going to have them lock and key. Mr. Radisson nodded, then took another pull from his cigarette, holding the smoke in his lungs for a few blissful heartbeats before blowing it out. There was a long pause, then he looked to Miss Rimmicky. She said she felt like she was human. I know, Miss Rimmicky said, putting her data slate in her own bag. Mr. Radisson raised his eyebrows at her, his face sarcastic. We both took human lovers, yet we don't think like her. What do you think the reason is behind that? Maybe it is like I said. The human pathokinesis is far more intense during war. Humans feel deeper, become more human, and at the same time, more bestial in combat. Maybe it unlocks something within the humans that enters the brain via smell or touch or something else. Miss Rimmicky said, standing up from her chair and clearing her thick tail from it. Or... Mr. Radisson said lowly, his fully colored eyes peering at Miss Rimmicky pensively. The soul? Miss Rimmicky took a few steps towards the door, then took in a deep breath as she turned to look at Mr. Radisson. The ever hard to find, and even harder to prove, soul? There was a long pause in the room as the two held each other's eyes, star citizen to star citizen. Miss Rimmicky turned, swishing her tail and holding up an empty hand, palm to the sky, as she left a final word in the room for Mr. Radisson. Maybe.